everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. My name's Soleil. I garden in mid-Michigan in a Zone 5B, and today we're going to plant some of the clearance plants that I purchased recently. I'm pretty excited to do it. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about some of my watering and fertilizing techniques as we do that as well, because I get a lot of questions about that and I don't want to answer every single one of them separately because that's a lot of extra work. So we're going to put it into this video for you guys, and I hope you enjoy it. Right here I decided that I wanted to begin replacing my hostas with some of my clearance plants. I get a lot of sun over here. This gets an eastern exposure. Until this red bud actually gets bigger, I'll continue to get quite a bit of sun over here. So it will be at least several years before I get more shade, but it will still probably be part sun. So I'm really not worried about them not getting enough sun here. But I've planted some April night salvia, and that's what this one is as well. And I wanted to kind of see what they look like before I planted them all. And so April night salvia will bloom before the May night salvia, and it has these gorgeous purple blooms on it, and it's actually blooming right now. So it's fun to get it in the garden. The pollinators absolutely love this one as well. And just as a reminder, if you didn't watch that video, I will tell you that this one gets to about 15 inches high and about 18 inches wide, and it is hardy all the way down to a zone 3. Many people have asked me about whether or not I can tell them about the heat zones that these are, that all the plants are good in, and I really can't because many of the companies don't actually talk about how much heat a plant can tolerate. And the reason for that is because heat is much different from cold in terms of how plants react. A lot has to do with how far south you are. Like, we can get 90-degree temperatures here in Michigan, but they don't last for as long. We can even get up to 100, but they don't last for as long, and we have more water maybe than some other places, and the sun is not as close to the earth, so it's not quite as baking. So it's really difficult for a grower to be able to provide that information. And I would recommend that if you have questions about those kind of things, reach out to your local university extension office. So I'm a master gardener, and I do that through Michigan State University, and they have a garden line, as most university extension offices do, that you can call into for free. It's just a hotline, and you can ask them about your gardening questions, about what plants do good in your area, and they're a really excellent resource. So I highly recommend that you find out about yours. They also will do soil testing for you, among other things. There is a fee for the soil testing, but it's a really good thing to know. So in terms of my watering here, I don't do it a lot typically. This year has been a bit of an anomaly because we've had so much dry weather this year. It's pretty crazy. So when it's super dry out, I will try to water some of my garden beds once a week with a really nice deep watering. And it's important to water less often and more deeply to help those roots get established, or to keep them nice and healthy and deep within the soil. Because if you water too shallow, the roots can also become shallow because that's where the water is, and then they can't survive the drought conditions as well. We just finally got some rain here, but the soil is still fairly dry. Salvias are a very tough plant, so I'm not too worried about them adapting, but I definitely am going to water these plants in after I'm done with getting them all in. So another thing about hot weather and watering that I like to look for to tell me whether I need to water in my perennial garden is if there's wilting. The thing about wilting is most plants will wilt in the heat of the day if they have large leaves and there's direct sun on them and it's really baking heat. So that doesn't always mean that a plant needs water. What I watch for to know for sure that a plant needs water is if it doesn't perk back up again after the sun goes down. Or if you wake up in the morning and you see a plant is wilting already, then you know it's struggling and needs some help. At that point, when you realize that, it's a good thing to give it a nice, deep, thorough watering. And what I will do is I'll take my hose and actually just sit the hose on a low amount of water and leave it there for 5-10 minutes, depending on just how dry it is. And then I'll come back and get it. And just double check to make sure that it's moist down to the roots. Maybe down to like the first knuckle. That's a good indicator of making sure that the soil is moist far enough down. Okay, so we've got those plants in. That second one that I just planted was one of the super clearance Cleopatra coneflowers that I got for $2 each. And that one's going to get about 18 inches high, so slightly higher than the salvias. But the salvias will bloom spring and summer, and the coneflowers will bloom summer to fall. So there'll be a nice succession of flowers with this. And these are hardy down to a zone 5. All right, here we are underneath the thundercloud plum, and I am going to be planting a banana cream 2 daisy here. So I found this one the other day on the clearance rack as well. And this is an Amazing Daisies Banana Cream 2, and it was $9 because it was half off, and it grows about 24 inches high, so about 2 feet high, probably about as high as this phlox. And it does get, it looks like about 20 inches wide, so that'll fit this just perfect. It says early summer into late summer it will continue to bloom, and it likes full sun. And this is going to continue to be at least a part to full sun area for quite some time. And I really need some pops of color in this garden bed at this time of year. So, ooh, something hard's down in there. Got some rocks. These are kind of like river pebble rocks. We find these all around the property in strange places. All right, so where was I in talking about watering? Yeah, so make sure that if something is wilting, it's really wilting, not just from the heat stress of the day, but it's actually wilting and needs water before you water it. Let's talk a little bit about fertilization now. Several of you have commented about how it seems like I don't use fertilizer. I do use some fertilizer, but I think, people want you to use fertilizer because it means that they will make money off of the fertilizer, but you don't always need fertilizer. So I'll just say that to begin. I do have organic fertilizer that I use for some of my perennials, especially when I have something that seems really, really stressed. Now, I would not use fertilizer on these because right now it's so hot outside. I just want them to kind of get some rest and get adjusted to their holes in the ground and not try to force them into putting out some blooms or new growth. I really just want to get them established. So the important part with these is going to be that watering that I just talked about. But in general, in my garden, I might throw out some garden tone or some rose tone on my flowers in the beginning of the season for the clematis and the roses, because they do like to have that extra food. It does help them to have that. But for the most part, unless you have your soil tested and you find that you're lacking significant types of minerals or different things related to your pH, maybe being off balance so you don't get enough iron in your plants, then really you just don't need to fertilize that much. The best thing I can recommend instead of fertilizing is to continue to amend your soil using organic matter. So if you have a compost bin, utilizing that compost. There have been some problems with store-bought compost lately, having some contaminants in it from some of the herbicides that people might use before they compost the material, and then it kills things. So be careful with what you buy from the store. Just make sure that it's well aged. And if you are afraid, you can also test it on a patch of your garden. All right, well, let's get these watered in now. So mulch has always been my go-to for the organic matter that I add to my garden every year. And that is enough for the worms and the weather to break it down. As you can see, I am watering at the base of these plants. This is the best way to water if you have a hose. I don't have a drip system, so I will be checking on these for at least the next couple of days to make sure that they look pretty good, and then I'll probably water them once a week if they need water and we haven't gotten enough rain. But they should establish themselves really well, especially being salvias. All right, let's go water the Shasta daisy. Again, I'm just watering around the base of the plant, going around it several times to make sure that not only is the area with the roots watered, but the soil around the plant is also watered, and that encourages the roots to reach out into that soil and get the water from it. So the reason why I'm planting these in the evening is because that's usually the best time to plant in the summertime. I don't recommend that people who are in really hot areas plant at all at this point in the summer, or that you move things like trees or bushes. I would wait until the fall. But perennials definitely are pretty hardy and tough, and so if you want to move them, you can do that. Just try to make sure that the plants are hydrated really well before you actually make the move. And then if you have super dry soil, fill up the hole with water, let it soak in a couple of times. That way you know that there's water beneath it. And even then, after you plant into the hole, water the plant like I just showed you. That should really get it established. It will have the night to kind of settle in before the heat of the day comes the next day. It's also good to consider planting, obviously, if you see a rain coming in the future. That can be helpful to plant the night before a rain, or the night before you see that it's in the forecast to be overcast, so that you're not getting a super strong sun on a brand new planted plant. So those are just some tips to help you out with fertilizing, watering, and then ensuring that you can continue to plant things through the summer. I got a couple other salvias I want to plant out front. Let's go. All right, so before we plant the salvias, I've got to do a little bit of musical plants. This is a hosta that I consider to be what I call a filler plant. So it has been holding this space really well for me until I got a plant that I wanted to plant here. We talked a little bit about what I was going to do in this area in an earlier video, but for those of you who didn't watch it, I'm going to be digging this hosta up. I have one salvia that's back behind it that I'm going to move over here because the other matching salvia that kind of makes the bed symmetrical died over the winter time and didn't come back. So I am going to move the one over here, and then we're going to plant two of the same type of salvia in those spots over there. And I'm just trying to shake this off to get as much soil and organic matter off of it as I can to keep it in this garden bed. All right, let's get the salvia from the other spot. So after I dig this salvia up and place it over there, we're going to be putting in the Salute Ice Blue Salvia. And it's actually should be a shorter salvia than this one. And it's supposed to bloom not just in the summer and fall, but also a little bit in the spring. So I'm looking forward to trying it out. I don't have this salvia in my garden currently. It is very short. It is only 18 inches high by 18 inches wide, but it has very pretty light blue, almost lavender type flowers on it. And again, it will bloom in spring, summer, and fall, and it goes in full sun. It still has a lot of coco coir in it from when I planted it. I find coco coir does not do very well in clay soil. It just kind of absorbs way too much water. So we'll get some of that off. All right, let's get this one planted. This is going to fill in this spot with some really great flowers. And if it blooms at the same time as this beautiful Shasta daisy, it's going to provide a nice foliage contrast between the yellow and the purples. All right, I think that looks good. So I'm just going to break up this clump of soil. This was a no-dig bed that I established about 2 years ago now. So the soil is still getting broken up over time, but I can tell already that it is improved from what it was originally. If you're wondering what the green tape is on my knee, it's related to my surgery that I had to reconstruct my ACL, and it's just helping my knee bone. So, all right. Soil looks nice and loose now. Can't wait to show you guys the garden tour this week. I think you're really going to enjoy it. A lot of the summer flowers are really coming into their own. Oh, this is going to be a really great learning experience. This is something that I found kills quite a few plants if you don't catch it. And I've been trying to watch every time that I buy a new plant. So if you've noticed, I've been taking the soil around the top part of the plants off because I always look for this kind of netting that is how cuttings are often grown. It's called a plug. They take the plug and they put it in a larger pot. And the problem is, if it doesn't break on its own, then it just strangles the plant and the roots have a really hard time getting out. So it looks kind of tough what I'm actually doing to it and pulling it apart like this and going in on the neck, but it's actually going to be better for it in the long run. So this one's ready to be planted now. I'm not quite sure why they leave those on, if it's just a mistake because they've got a lot of new people in the nurseries these days or what. But keep an eye out. It's a plant killer for sure. All right, we have 3 more of these to plant, so we'll get them done and then I'll take you around and show you a tour of everything we got done today. All right, we're just watering these in now. All right, well, let's take a look at what we accomplished today. I think we got a lot done. We have our gorgeous April night salvia here, flanked in the back by two cone flowers that are going to be the Cleopatra yellow cone flowers, which I think will be gorgeous when they get better. And then, just down the pathway, we added our banana cream Shasta daisy. So here it is, tucked in right now, but definitely going to grow, and it has one flower bud on it right now. This is going to be beautiful, and that will be yellow, and it will turn a nice creamy white. And then next to it we have this Laura phlox, which will be a pink color, and that will be blooming soon as well. In the front garden bed here between the two gorgeous goldfinch daisies, we removed a hosta that the deer have been snacking on and moved in a beautiful salvia. Now that salvia was replaced over here with the nice new light blue Salute Ice Blue salvia. And we did that symmetrically within this garden bed. So it's on both sides of the oak leaf hydrangea and next to the penstemon. And it's in between another salvia of a different color. So I think it looks really pretty. On the front side of this bed, in front of the bobo hydrangeas, is where we placed the similar Salute Ice Blue salvia. And while it may be small right now, as it grows in height and the bobo blooms, it will make a spectacular combination with that ice blue and the creamy white. Well, I hope you enjoyed talking a little bit today about taking care of your garden in the summer, doing some planting, and ensuring your watering and fertilizing is going well. Thanks so much for joining me today. I appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Bye!